Hi, my name is Mary, and I'm making this video just to share my lupus story thus far. I've had a couple people ask to hear it because people they know and love have recently been diagnosed with lupus, and I was going to type it out, but it just seems like a novel. Not a novel, don't get scared. But also, I just also thought that making a video would be helpful too, to kind of get to know me and my personality, and then that way you hear it in my voice. So I've been diagnosed with lupus for a year and 2 months, as a matter of fact, and it's been definitely like an interesting process and journey. I guess lupus journey is my journey. A little bit of backstory. In 2010, I was in a bad car accident, and I have neurological issues because of that. Headaches, I have them 24 hours a day. They just vary in intensity and location, and I was having issues with my words. Like I lost words. Like I knew there was a word I wanted to say and I couldn't say it, or I'd stutter or say something and mean to say something and something else would come out. I had balance issues. So all these things. And over time they got better. The shaking, my hands shaking and whatnot got better. They didn't go completely away, but like I said, they got better. And then, so, I was working and doing my life. And then in 2013, in January, I met my husband, and we got engaged in March, and then we got married in November, which was really cool. But during that time, in July, I started to have complex migraines. And the first time it was extremely scary. I went to the ER and they thought I was having a stroke because my speech was so garbled and my arm wouldn't move, and I was in so much pain. And then also, after those happened, my legs started giving out. I was losing strength. I had to quit my job because I was in so much pain, and my not being able to walk, and not being able, and having issues talking and all these things. And so I call my neurologist's office, like stressed to the gills, right? And because I'm getting married in November, like this is August now, and it's not getting better. And so they got me in September, thankfully, which was really cool. And so I'm talking to my neurologist, and he's doing all this blood work because I was thinking it's vitamin deficiency, maybe that's what's going on. And so while I'm waiting to hear back from that, I'd heard of something called the Whole30. And I decided, I was like, I gotta try this because, you think of your wedding day and you have this idea, and I wanted to walk down that aisle. I didn't want to do a wheelchair. Like I was like, oh, I'm gonna walk down this aisle. And so the Whole30 is an elimination diet. And so there's, for 30 days, no soy, no sugar, no dairy, no grains, and there's a couple other things to it. And I started feeling better, but like 2 weeks into it, I lost too much weight. Like I wasn't even working out, but through that, I lost too much weight, so my wedding dress wasn't fitting. So I had to stop it because I couldn't afford a new wedding dress, so I had to do that. But anyway, so then that's kind of when I started switching to a paleo diet. I did not have to use my wheelchair down the aisle. I did have to take my wheelchair on the honeymoon. It's always, like when we travel, I make sure I have my walker or my wheelchair with me at all times, available to me at all times. But this time still not doing super great. But then January to May, I didn't use my wheelchair, I didn't use my walker, I was doing all sorts of stuff. And then May, crashed like I haven't crashed before. I mean, I was in so much pain. The speech was bad. I had major fatigue, and I'm just like, there's something wrong. And so I call my neurologist again, and he's like, obviously there is something going on where you have these bouts of remissions, but then you have these flare-ups. You have something else going on. There is something. And so he got me on regular appointments with him, and he did more testing. And then that's when the ANA popped up in my blood test. And so when I meet him, he tells me, you might have lupus. And I'm like, okay. And I go home. The only thing I knew about lupus was America's Next Top Model. There was a girl, like the second season of it, and I remember her being in that private phone booth, calling home to her mom, crying because her hair was falling out. And I'm like, is my hair going to fall out? Like, what is going on? And so I start Googling lupus, and I get scared and stressed because it's just lupus. There's such a wide variety of what can happen. And I'm like, my poor husband, I was healthy when I was healthier when he met me. And now is like, this what our life going to be like? Is this what he signed up for? Am I never going to be able to work again? Am I going to be able to have children? Like, there's all these questions. At the same time, I'm like, okay, I just need to wait until I see the rheumatologist and ask him questions, get confirmed. I'm not going to get stressed out about this until I know for sure. I mean, it's still like back there in my head, but I was still like, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to focus on the negative. That doesn't help anything. Because I had already seen the correlation between stress and my symptoms getting worse. And if I stressed out about it, it was going to make me sicker, and that was just going to be a vicious cycle. So in October, we meet the rheumatologist, and he's like, you have lupus. So I asked him, of course, about children, about having children, the medicine you want to put me on, is that going to be okay for pregnancy? Because that's something on my mind. I've always wanted to be a mother, and, and he was encouraging, and he also, we wanted to see how I did on the medicine, and, but he also told me, like, there's a chance that because the baby would be on my antibodies, that there'd be a slight rash, or worst case scenario, and I forget what the term is, or whatever can penetrate the placenta, a baby can need a heart transplant. And hearing that and finding out you have lupus is just like inside. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do this. Like, I'm going to kick lupus's butt. Like, that became my mindset. So then we go home and I start to Google lupus. I'm like, okay, I need to know. I get on the Lupus Foundation website. I was Googling lupus walk. I'm like, when's a walk? I'm raising awareness. I'm doing this walk. And then I found out there was a walk that Saturday. I do not recommend going on a lupus walk a couple days after you find out you're diagnosed with lupus. Like, that was not good for me. The walk experience was great, but I was the only person there who had lupus that was in a wheelchair. The speaker, the guy who organized it, gets up there and talks about his wife's experience, and one of the first things he talks about is how many miscarriages she had, and I'm like trying not to tear up because I don't want to be like the crying girl in the wheelchair. Not that, I don't know why, I just it's just since I don't look sick, I get stares when I'm in my wheelchair, or when I'm using a walker, or when I'm using my cane, and it just makes me very self-conscious sometimes. So we do the walk, and then I found out about a lupus support group because I didn't know anybody with lupus, and I went to that, and I'm so grateful that I did. Those ladies, none of them had really what I had, but their lupus was all different. But something they talked about was the emotional aspect of it, because I could feel myself being like an emotional roller coaster sometimes. And I'm like, okay, that's part of it. And realizing that lupus can affect like my emotional responses, my not just physically. And so it kind of opened me up, and I'm like, oh, I do that. But when you're hearing someone else talk, and then it clicks, and you're like, oh, that happens to me. And I'm grateful they have a Facebook group, and so like, that's a place where you can ask ladies to pray, or you can kind of share, like, well, I asked to pray, not everybody prays, but so I don't want you to think it's like a religious thing, but also just for an encouraging word, and sometimes just to like vent, if I have one more person tell me I don't look sick. So then I started researching about different things. Like, I'd remembered that the Whole30 and the Paleo thing had helped me, and I actually won tickets to a paleo conference, right? So I got to hear people in the medical profession, other people who've had autoimmune diseases, and what has helped them. And it was amazing, like, to be there where other people got it, because unless you've gone through it or you're loving someone who goes through it, it's just kind of hard to imagine. It's hard to fully wrap your mind around. And I remember, well, okay, I get comments a lot about that I'm handling it well, or I have a good attitude, and about it. And it's just the fact that it could be so much worse. Like, in my mind, like, that's what I tell myself. And even on days where I'm in so much pain and all the things that normally help don't help, like, I will sit there and just tell myself, I'm like, you have been in worse pain than this. You have been in worse pain than this. To try to prevent myself from like blowing it up out of proportion, because I can do that. Like I can go from here to like in 0.3 seconds. Like I can do that. I know that about myself, so I have to figure out ways to help me. And I remember one night I sat in my prayer closet, and I'm just praying to God, and I'm just praying, and I'm like saying scripture back to him, and I'm like, you are the great physician, and you are the healer, and I need your wisdom, and your word tells me that I can have it. What can I do to make this better? And I'm just crying. And then that night I go to sleep, and the next day I wake up, and then it's like a smack in the face, like upside the head. Like there are a couple things that I know for a fact affect my health, and I wasn't being vigilant about them. Number one, sleep. If that was something I heard 10 million times at the Singing Paleo conference about all these other things, it was sleep, and about how your room needs to be for sleep and another activity. And that's it. Like, you shouldn't have a TV on in there. You shouldn't have your screens on, your tablet, your laptop, your phone. Those affect you. They affect your sleep. I know that I'm not allergic to gluten, but I know when I eat it, my headaches get sharper and my joints ache. And I know that dairy affects me and soy affects me. And there were still things that, because I had fallen off the paleo wagon, and knowing I need to get back on for me. I'm not saying that that's going to work for whoever's watching this video. But those were things that I could focus on, that I knew that I was taking care of my body. And because it's not always possible to know exactly everything you need to do all at once, and it's overwhelming. And so you need to, for me, I need to focus on what I can control, and what I can take care of. You know what I control? I control my food, and I control my sleep. I control taking care of my medicine. And having lupus has been, there have been low moments, and I've felt like a shut-in sometimes, and I've struggled with sometimes feeling like I was forgotten. But at the same time, there's been these other moments where I've been able to encourage other people. It's given me a different way to see the world. I don't know what's going on. Since lupus is invisible, and seeing how that feels to get the stares and all that, it's really made me look at how I look at people, and how I don't want people looking at me a certain way. So why am I doing this to somebody else? I don't know what they're going through. I don't know what just happened to them earlier that day. And so that's kind of where my attitude is towards me and my lupus. I hope that something in here was helpful. I've never done anything like this before, so like I said, I hope that this helps you or helps somebody else. I'm totally available to chat. I want to encourage you. I want to help you with the resources that have been helpful to me. And I'm sure you'll find resources that I'll be like, ooh, I need to know about that. So I am open for communication. That's a silly way to word that. But anyways, I really hope that this video has been helpful, and I look forward to hearing from you. And if there's anything that I can do to help, I will. I'll talk to you later.